Do you know you can preserve your eggs for future reproductive purpose? Medical experts describe this method as freezing of eggs or Oöcyte cryopreservation. Today on Sound Health, that is our focus. I'm Olasumbo Modupe. Welcome to the show. It's still Sound Health on Lagos Television, and today on the show we are looking at egg freezing, and I have a fertility expert with me, Dr. Abayomi Ajayi. He's also the founder, Nordica Fertility Center. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Okay, to start with, what is egg freezing?
Egg freezing is a very important topic, especially in modern day, now that it's becoming much popular, because for a long time we could not freeze eggs. We could freeze embryos, but it was impossible to freeze eggs, or it was very difficult to freeze eggs, in the sense that eggs consist about 80% of water. So if you freeze the initial period that we're trying to freeze, by the time you want to unfreeze, you have a problem, because the proteins will have coagulated or come glued together. And so, but now it's possible for us to freeze eggs. And when we first started, also it was labeled as experimental, but from about 2012, it became that we now know that it's no longer experimental, and we can really do it very well.
Why do I need to freeze my egg?
There are so many reasons. There could be medical reasons, and there can be, if you like, social reasons, or we're trying to change away from social to say elective reasons. All right. The medical reasons usually are whether you're going to go through a treatment that will jeopardize. We know how common breast cancer is now, and then you need to take either radiotherapy or chemotherapy, which can have effect on your ovaries, and then you might not be able to produce eggs later in future. But that's one part of it. Or apart from cancer, now we're seeing endometriosis. When you have repeated surgery, we know that the ovaries, the blood supply to the ovaries might be compromised. So it's possible for you to freeze eggs because of that. And then, of course, now in our own environment, we have a lot of fibroids also. By the time you're having multiple fibroids, maybe it might be good to multiple attempts at removing fibroids. The ovarian reserve might be compromised. So it's one of the things to think about. But also there is a place where you want to freeze eggs because probably you don't have a partner yet, or you're thinking of achieving something either in your career, and then you say, okay, fine, why don't I freeze my eggs, and then let me do this in the next 5 years, and then I can come back and use this. So there are so many scenarios now that it's possible for you to want to freeze eggs. And yeah, so let's look at it from that.
Okay, Dr. Abayomi Ajayi, in your years of experience, how aware are Nigerians about this method?
I think the consciousness of this method is not very popular yet in Nigeria. Okay. But it's more popular in people who should not even be freezing eggs. I met a woman who is 50 years old who said she wants to freeze her eggs. You know, the kind of people we are getting now who say they want to freeze their eggs either in their late 40s or early 50s. And those are not the people who should be freezing eggs, because eggs should be frozen at a younger age. So yeah. So the awareness is a little bit, we need to really work on the awareness for people to know that it's possible. And what kind of people should be freezing eggs also, I think, is one of the things we need to work on.
Are there age limits for this method? Really,
there is, we can't say there are age limit, but it's best done at some age. This is the way to look at it. We know that women come into the world with all the eggs they're going to use, and the quality and quantity of these eggs decrease with age. 35 years is a significant age in the reproductive career of a woman. The number and the quality of the eggs tend to decrease from age 35. So from the same woman, if you look at for about when she's in early 30s to about 35, the chance that she will conceive every month is about 25 to 30%. Okay. But the same woman, when she is 40, the chance that she will conceive comes to about 8%. So that's what we look at that. So it's better you store the eggs when the chances are higher, where the quality is better and the quantity is also more. So that's why it's always easier and better when you freeze your eggs either below 30 or before 35.
Okay, Dr. Ajayi, kindly take us through the process of egg freezing method.
The first thing that you need to see that you can freeze eggs, or prepare you to see how many cycles are you likely to need, because there is something also, one of the problems that we have again is that some people are freezing eggs, they go and freeze 3 eggs, 4 eggs. Come on, it's no work done, because the idea is that you want to have a baby or babies at the end of the exercise. So it's not, people don't just store eggs just for the sake of storing eggs. They store eggs because they want to achieve something. And therefore the number, which we are going to go to later on, will tell you, needs to be up to a certain amount for it to be hopeful. So the first thing is for you to do what we call ovarian reserve testing. What that means is that we want to see at that point in time, how are you going to react to the stimulation drugs based on your ovarian reserve. You know, I said earlier on that a woman brings all the eggs that she's going to use in her lifetime. So we want to see what the reserve is at that point in time. So we do some blood tests to be able to see what the ovarian reserve is like. We can do a scan test also to be able to see what we call antral follicles, scan the number of antral follicles. And we can do we do the blood test, either we're doing FSH or we're doing what we call AMH. So these are tests that we can also, this gives us an idea what the ovarian reserve is like, and then we can also tell you up front, for example, that, oh, you might need to do this about 2-3 times, or it's just once. Okay. Depends also on your age, because the number, like we said, is important.
Is the process painful?
It's normal IVF. So what you do after the blood test, and we see that, okay, you can do this, or this is the number of times you might need to do this, then we actually start you on drugs to be able to stimulate you to produce the eggs. You know, normally a woman will produce only 1 egg if she's let alone. Mm-hmm. So, but we can't use 1 egg. So we give you drugs, what we call stimulating drugs, that make you to produce as many eggs as possible, and then we monitor that. And then after a while, when we think that the eggs are matured, we use a drug to trigger them, and just before you ovulate, we go to the theater and we remove them under a very minor surgery or operation that we just used to. But we don't cut you open. It's through the vagina, and we put a needle to a scanner, and we're able to bring out the eggs from through the vagina, and then that's that. And then we now store these eggs. But we need to know, I keep talking about the number because the number is so important. We need to know the number of matured eggs that you have. So there's one thing about number of eggs, there's another thing about number of matured eggs. So it's the matured eggs that are useful to us, and that's what we store.
What is the timeline for this method? How long can I freeze my egg before I say, okay, I think I'm ready to withdraw or extract them?
Okay, normally it takes about 2 weeks for the stimulation. Then once you're ready after the 2 weeks, then we'll just take you to the theater, and we'll do the procedure, and then that's all.
Okay, for how long can I keep my eggs?
Oh, fortunately in Nigeria there is no law about that. In some countries they say for 10 years, but in Nigeria you can keep for as long as you want for now.
What are the risks involved in freezing eggs? I'm sure everything good has a disadvantage. What are the risks involved in freezing eggs?
Well, the first thing is the drugs that you're going to use. Like we said, they're stimulating drugs. So it's possible for you to hyperstimulate. Normally, this is becoming a reality in IVF clinics now, because we now have the kind of regimen that prevents hyperstimulation. So that is going down as a complication, but it's a possibility also that you will hyperstimulate, produce so many eggs and that might lead to admission in hospital. But that rarely happens, maybe 0.01% of the time. So now that's very rare. And the second thing is that you can have some injury from the needle that is used, but that also happens maybe once in 1,000. So it's, we can't say there are no risk, but really and truly the risks are very negligible. But I want to talk about the number of eggs, because this is where some people have a lot of problems. They just say they have stored my eggs, but how many eggs did you store? And what we're saying is that you need to store about not less than 15 if you want to have good result. But this is, like I said, these are matured eggs for you to get good results. So sometimes that's why we tell some people you need to do more than one cycle if you really want to store your eggs. And the reason why we say not less than 15 is very it's simple. If you store 15 eggs, all right, what we say is that if we thaw the eggs, about 80 to 90% of the eggs when we thaw will survive. Okay. So if you start with 15, 80 to 90%, we get it to about 13. Okay. If you now fertilize these eggs, we expect 70 to 80% of them to fertilize also. So that reduces to about 10. Okay. All right. So that's fertilized. We expect 50% of those who fertilize to get to day 5. Okay. So you are left with about 5. Okay. Now we expect out of this 5, because of the age of the patient, that about 50% also will be able to become babies. They are normal. So that leaves you to about 2. Out of the 2, we expect at least 1 to be able to attach to the uterus and become a baby. So if you store 5 eggs, you are pushing it. I'm not saying you can't get pregnant, but your chances are not as good as when you... And then the age at which you store also determines the likelihood of you taking a baby home. So, because what we should always remember is that the reason why you are storing is not just because you want to store, but because you want to take a baby home at the end of the procedure. And so you must always have that in your plan when you're starting.
Okay, so after the whole process and back after about 5, 6 or 7 years, what's the procedure?
Yeah, because you already have the eggs, so what we're going to do is, if you store the eggs alone, that means at that time you were not married, so there was no sperm, so you stored only eggs. Then what we need to do is, you're married now, we can use your husband's sperm to fertilize the eggs, and then you have embryos. So once you have embryos, then we just transfer like normal IVF. And then, but you don't need to use all the stimulation drugs at that point in time. All you just need to do is to synchronize the embryo with the uterus, and then we just do a transfer. And transfer is very painless. So we just, and then we just wait for the body to accept whatever we have transferred.
Before now, there were reports on the internet that young guys and young ladies, sell their semen, and the ladies sell their eggs. How true is this? I would like you to debunk if it's a myth or fact. And do I need other people's eggs before I can be fertile?
Yes. Well, the word selling is the only problem I have.
Okay.
But people donate eggs and they donate sperm, because that's where some people, that's the only way that they can have their own children. And that's done worldwide, that there is what is called third-party reproduction, whereby you need another person to help you, because either your sperm or for example, let's look at a woman that is in her 50s and she wants to have a baby. And we said the eggs are either the quality and the quantity are so much reduced. I told you that by 40, your chance is about 8%. So for a 50-year-old, it's about 1% or nothing. So such a person will need donor eggs. And it's reproduction is a human right. So if you want to have children and it's safe, then we should be able to give you that. So definitely some people, and you can't pay money for either donor eggs or donor sperm, because nobody can pay for a baby. So it's people who do this actually, they are reimbursed for whatever out of expenses that they pay, they've expended. So and I think we should give kudos to them for having a large heart.
Okay. Can you please share with us the success rates of this method?
The success rate is just success rate for IVF, because it's just an IVF procedure. So it depends on first the age at which the eggs were stored. So, and universally 40 to 50% when you are less than 35.
As we wrap up this interview segment, what advice do you have for couples trying for babies, people who are interested in freezing their eggs, and would-be mothers?
Well, I think we're so lucky to be alive at this stage of the history of mankind, because technology has made things so much better for all of us, including people who are struggling with infertility. Because IVF is here and has come to stay, the results are becoming better. And so what I just think I should tell them is that they should know that they are not alone. They should seek help, but also seek help in proper places.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Abayomi Ajayi, for sharing your expertise with us on egg freezing.
You're very welcome.
Okay, that has been Dr. Abayomi Ajayi, a fertility expert and the founder of Nordica Fertility Center. He has been putting us through how to freeze your egg for future reproductive purpose. Sound Health continues with trending and home essentials. Please stay with us. Whatever your fertility or reproductive options, ensure you seek medical help. This is where we say thank you on today's episode of Sound Health. For comments and inquiries, please send SMS to 0035826603 or follow us on social media at LTV Social, #Sound Health. A sound health is a sound mind. Make healthy living your choice.